Good day, it is Althea from the Bible in 1 Year. Today we spend time in Mark 7, verse 24 to 37. To understand this section better, we need to go back to chapter 6. John the Baptist and Jesus were not only cousins on their mother's side, but grew up together and they were united in their shared mission. John's calling was to prepare the way for the Messiah, while Jesus, as the Messiah, came to fulfill this calling. Messiah refers to the Anointed One, a promised Savior in Acts 13, verse 23. In Mark 7, Jesus got news of John who was beheaded. Jesus and the disciples tried to get time alone to grieve and to rest a while, but the crowd followed him. Constantly, Jesus was busy either ministering to those in need or addressing the Pharisees, annulling their man-made laws and traditions. Jesus teaches them that there is no difference between clean and unclean people. In verse 24, Jesus and the disciples went to Tyre, Sidon, and Decapolis. These were Gentile regions with a long history of paganism, and they were in opposition to the Jews. Most faithful Jewish men would consider these regions unclean, and being in their presence would make a person ceremonically unclean. Jesus again tried to escape the crowd to rest, but it was impossible for him to be hidden from the public, as word about his healing and miracles had even reached the Gentiles. In verse 27, a Gentile woman approached Jesus, asking him repeatedly to heal her daughter from demon possession. At first, it looked like Jesus has a non-committal response when he initially refuses her request. Taken out of context, this is not only surprising but even offensive. The Greek word for dog is wild cur. It refers to the characteristic of the specific breed: rugged, courageous, intelligent, and strong work ethic. Jewish traditions had that Gentiles lack a covenant relationship with God and did not follow the Mosaic law. This led to the idea that they are unclean, they lack spiritual understanding and commitment to God's will. But Jesus creates a metaphor to explain the priorities of his ministry, as we read in Matthew 15, verse 24. He was commissioned by God to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Jesus makes three comparisons: his message as bread, the Jewish people as the little children, and the Gentiles as dogs, explaining his calling in a way that the disciples and the women could understand. If Jesus, in violation of his mission, moved the attention from Israel, he would be like a father that takes the food from his children to feed the pet dogs. Pet dogs, in context, is a very different form of unclean animal. Jesus used this metaphor to test her intentions. She did not take offense. She did not debate Jesus' reference to the dogs. Instead, she accepted her low place and honored Jesus with her words, "Yes, Lord." Her faith, humility, and persistence moved Jesus into having compassion with her and granted her her wish in verse 29 and 30. 1 Peter 5 verse 5b reads, "Clothe yourselves, all of you, with humility towards one another, for God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble." Next, in verse 32 to 35, we read that they begged Jesus to heal a deaf man with a speech impediment. Because of their religious traditions, they believed that if a man was mute or unable to speak due to demon possession, then the demon could not be cast out. If you ask the demon's name, but due to the speech impediment you could not hear what the demon's name was, then you could not cast it out. Jesus sighed deeply over the false belief and the hard-heartedness of this generation, as we read in Mark 8 verse 12 and 9 verse 19. Jesus healed the man after putting his fingers in his ears, spitting and touching the man's tongue. The man was deaf, therefore Jesus could not catch his attention with words. He had to use actions. And the ancient culture believed that saliva possesses curative properties. The man was deaf, not blind, therefore he could see what Jesus used saliva. Jesus did not have a formula for every ailment. He takes each individual's specific circumstances and cultural beliefs into account when working with that person, never forcing anything on anyone, never sending anyone away empty-handed, even when he is feeling tired, grief, or frustration with false beliefs and doctrines. This chapter ends with the testimony of many about Jesus, namely, Jesus had done everything well. Know that Jesus knows what your problem is, how to deal with anything in your life. He knows how to deal and heal every problem, circumstance, and ailment. All you need to do is to come willing, persistent in faith and humility. May you be blessed. Goodbye.